get out there and go fucking do something. Just go. And then in the middle of doing it, it'll become easy. Even if it's not easy, even if it's hard, it's easier than not doing it and wishing that you had done it. Yeah, it's hard for people to be themselves. They don't like themselves. They don't like what they are, and so they like to pretend that there's something more exceptional instead of working at it. But what people really seem to enjoy is people who don't do that. People seem to really enjoy people who just work at being a better person and being better at life. And not, the more you concentrate on the image, the more people think it's gross. Yeah. Like the more you concentrate on what you're trying to project and how you would want people to view you or how you want people to talk about you, the more it seems disgusting. I don't think we're programmed to be steady and stable, because I don't think there's never a time in human history where life has been like super peaceful and easygoing. Like you have these little kind of breaks where no one's coming over the hill with a sword and a fucking gang of barbarians.
The orcs are not breeding for a little while.
So you get a little break, and that's part of what people appreciate about life is those breaks. But you have to have the chaos too, and I think it's kind of built into the system that there is always going to be this up and down, and I think it's also built into the way you interface with life. You're not always going to feel great. You're going to have weird days, but those weird days where things are shitty, one of the things it does is it really makes you appreciate the good days. I think if every day is too good, that's the problem with people that are on like certain medications that sort of make everything a 7 or a 6 all day, every day. It's just gray and pale and boring.
Yeah.
And there's no ups and no downs. There's no nothing. It's just flat. The more effort that I put in my life, whether it's exercise or particularly like running and yoga and martial arts and doing stand-up and doing podcast, the more I do those things, because I'm creating my own struggle. And I feel like there's a lot of benefit in creating your own struggle rather than, like, if you see a lot of people that run into like a lot of struggle with life, just life in general, in terms of like relationships and friendships and fallings out, a lot of that seems to me that people need a certain amount of conflict and a certain amount of struggle. And they create that struggle if they don't get it in some sort of a organic form. If you're not at war with a neighboring tribe, or you're not worried about predators, you create a struggle with your girlfriend or with your buddies, right, or with the people at work, your coworkers. The more I create my own struggle, the more I orchestrate it through training, through exercise, and just rigorous physical struggle where you're knocking on the door of whether or not your body is going to make it through this. The more you do that, the more I feel like it minimizes those other struggles in life. Yeah, and you can curate those thoughts and you can cultivate them. There's a thing that you can do where you can get used to action. Like Jocko Willink's perfect example. He has that thing on his, if you go to his Instagram page, almost every other photo is a watch. And it's a watch that says 4:30 in the morning, because that's when he gets up and he works out and he earns the sunset. And he does that. He's so disciplined, and he's got this saying that's a great saying: discipline equals freedom. And it's true, because he's able to force himself to do that every single time. There's no excuses. There's no breaks. There's no days off. It doesn't happen. So because of that, you're not scared. You know that you can keep doing it. You know that you can continue to perform. There's a lot of people that are scared of their ability to do something that's difficult. They're scared of whether or not you see someone who's doing something that's really tough to do, and you go, man, I don't know if I could do that. I don't know if I could force myself to be disciplined. I don't know if I could force myself to take that kind of action. Well, if you do force yourself to take that kind of action, you don't have that question anymore. That question, I don't know if I can do it. Well, you're doing it. So you obviously can do it. Can you do it tomorrow? Well, you did it today. Why can't you do it tomorrow? Just do it. That Nike slogan, just do it, it's one of the greatest slogans of all time. It's so true. It's so good. It's so much better than live your truth or any of these fucking stupid ones that you hear today that people keep spouting out left and right. get out there and go fucking do something. Just go. And then in the middle of doing it, it'll become easy. Even if it's not easy, even if it's hard, it's easier than not doing it and wishing that you had done it. You know, Russell Peters has gotten really heavily into jiu-jitsu, and he's been doing jiu-jitsu now for a couple of years, like I think 3 years. He's got his blue belt, and we were training together the other day. It's like, God, I wish I started when I was younger. I go, well, yeah, but you didn't. So shut the fuck up and let's keep going.
Right.
Like you can't, that shit ain't gonna help anything. You got a time machine, bitch. And by the way, if you did start when you were younger, who knows? Maybe you would have never done stand-up, or maybe you would have not gotten so into it. Maybe you would have been more into jiu-jitsu. Maybe that's better. But whatever it is, it's not happening. And I like to do things that I'm not very good at. And doing things that I'm not very good at, I learn about learning. And I think learning about learning, like especially new things, especially for someone who does something and has been doing the same thing for a long time. Like I guess LeBron's been doing with basketball, or, a stand-up comedian like myself has been doing stand-up for 30 years. He'd do it for 30 years. I've been doing the same goddamn thing for a long time. What I find makes me better at stand-up is not just doing a lot of stand-up, but also doing a lot of other things, and particularly doing things that I'm not good at. And they don't like archery never makes its way into my act. Yoga doesn't make its way into my act, but doing those things that I suck at, it helps.
You become the one who can overcome the thing.
Yeah.
And that's universal. If you're the one that can overcome the thing, that applies to fucking whatever.
That's true. I mean, knowing that you can achieve a certain level of excellence, whether it's at martial arts or at anything you're doing, if you do know what that feeling is like when you've worked for years and years and years and you've achieved this certain level of excellence that's very unusual, you realize like, oh, that could be achieved in other venues. You just have to find the venue, apply the discipline, and that's where you get so much more benefit out of a struggle that you choose to embark in versus a struggle that life throws upon you. And I think the more you choose to embark in these struggles, these especially physical and mental struggles, because I consider both martial arts, yoga, and actually even trail running, I consider the mental struggles as much as physical struggles. Like, because I could stop anytime I want. I'm halfway up the hill, I can go, fuck this.
Yep.
Fuck this, I'm walking the rest of the way.
Yep.
Call my dog over, put him on the leash. I'm like, we're walking, buddy. But, or you could say, no, this is what I'm doing today. I have a very clear plan in front of me. My plan is we're doing 4 miles today. This is where we start. This is where we end. And I think that enduring something and building up that ability to endure things, that's also a very important mechanism that you could apply to everyday life. Like that, the mechanism of understanding how to endure. Because a lot of people are just running from discomfort. They're running from it. They're just avoiding it. Distracting yourself from the tiniest frustration of boredom. Just the little, we don't get bored anymore. Or if we get bored for these tiny amounts of time, then you get distracted. So your distraction is eliminating your boredom. But the problem with that is like there's certain thoughts that only come to you when you're thinking, when you don't have any input coming in. When we're constantly looking at our phones, the only input you're getting is input from other people. And sometimes that's good. Sometimes you get good stuff out of that. But it's like a diet of only fruit. Like, hey, motherfucker, you need some protein.
Yeah.
Like you need to get some other things in your diet. And I think having discomfort in your diet, like having it as a regular part of your life, it minimizes the amount of other kinds of bullshit that you create. You are not your past. You're you. You're you right now. Like the past you might have done some things you wish you hadn't done. Don't dwell on that. You learn from it, that's fine, but don't dwell on it. Just keep moving. Keep moving. Use it as fuel. Say never again. I get what I did wrong, but don't think that you're that person that made those mistakes. You're the person who's learned, and to have that attitude is a really important thing. And to not say, why am I doing this now? I could have been doing this my whole life. Well, you weren't, so the fuck is that going to help?
Yeah.
You gotta not think like that. You just gotta be happy you're doing it now.